Hello everybody. Today I'm going to work on the fuel lines and I'm continuing on the elevator tips. Okay, right off the bat, bending fuel lines is really hard. It looks simple. There are guys who explain how the hand tube bender tools work on YouTube, and it looks easy, but if you try to do it yourself, especially if you want to, let's say, make them fit in corners, it's a real pain in the butt. It's really hard. So this is my first try. Actually, I did it together with my dad, but I had to buy another few feet of fuel lines because I was just not satisfied with the overall result. But okay, I wasn't aware of that yet here. We started off, we wanted to use all aluminum fuel lines and bending them, so no hoses or other stuff, just like on the drawings, and try to make them as much as possible out of one piece, so no bulkheads or clamps or other stuff. Same for the vent lines, but we're starting with the fuel lines here, and it's actually there's only 3 of them. So there's one of the left fuel tank, there's one for the right fuel tank, and there is a return line. So I decided to make only one return line, so the return line is fixed and always goes to the left tank. Some people build dual return lines with a fuel switch that can switch both the, let's say, the return line and the feed line, but that looked too complex to me, so I didn't like it. Of course, now we have to pay attention if you fly the plane that you note that, of course, all the return lines, all the returning fuel goes back to the left wing and not to the right wing, but that's okay. So that sounds simple, only 3 lines. How hard can it be? Well, first of all, the brackets on the main spar that hold the fuel lines, which I didn't know when I built them actually, I just built them on drawing, they're not completely exact. If I knew that there had to be fuel lines going through them, I would have probably deviated a little bit from the drawing, or at least make it completely straight. So now I had to bend a little bit here and bend a little bit there in order to make it fit, and yeah, that's hard. And the first time you just screw up. You keep on bending, and then you're not allowed to, of course, bend it back, because then the aluminum is weak. You cannot bend it 10 times. So if you screw up there, if it's not perfectly good at once, you are just in a big trouble. So I screwed the first line, then I found that I could reuse it for another line. But yeah, this didn't work. At the end of the day, it was in there, but I just wasn't satisfied with it. The overall quality was just not good enough for me. So in the next movie, you will see that I will remove everything and start all over again, because I want to be well, I'm not pursuing perfect, but it should be good enough, and this is not good enough, so that irked me. Also, I found out that the return line, although it should go according to the drawings above the fuel line, we decided to do it under it because the holes are different. So yeah, we had to, the second time we deviated a little bit from the initial plan, and that result went much better. Anyway, here we're still working on the fuel lines, and I'm probably at this point already a little frustrated that it's not going the way I want to. And yeah, we use a wire to, let's say, make a template, and then try to figure out how the hand tube bender works. There is a left and a right, let's say, angle you can make. So if you have, let's say, 2 inches on the left side, then you have to use a different mark. But it's really hard. And then you have, if you bend it, the tube gets longer. So it's not easy. Here my dad already left, and I'm yeah, looking if I can. I wasn't satisfied, and I thought maybe I can, salvage it. But after a good night's sleep, I decided fuck it, can do it. Okay, next day, working on the elevator tips. So the rudder tip is finished, and I'm now finishing off the elevator tips. Same technique as for the rudder, and yeah, works pretty good. There's one big difference here in the elevators. There is this counterweight. Maybe you can see it. It's on the end of the back part of the elevator, where I'm working on right now. That's lead. So there's a lead counterweight that balances the elevator, so you don't have too much weight in the stick, the control stick. And I decided to make a little, let's say, glass fiber covering of it. Later that turns out it is completely useless, because once you start trimming and making it really smooth, you mostly trim all the glass fiber away. So again here, if I would do this again, I would probably trim a little bit more on the forward side. So you have to trim the weights anyway, because the weights are too heavy when you get them from factory. I would have, and I've trimmed them on the back, which is according to the manual. Next time I would probably trim them on the forward side, so that you have place left for some extra glass fiber. It's probably not bad. I'm not sure what will happen if I paint the glass fiber and the forward part is lead. I'm not sure if you can actually paint lead. I've never tried that. I think that they actually put lead into paint. So, well, in the olden days actually. So it's probably not bad, but I'm not sure. I'm using blind rivets again for the elevators, the tips, because I don't need to be in there anymore. That's also nice. What I'm working right now, that's the part where the trim tab is going to be installed, and I didn't like the connection between the trim tab and the elevator. So the edge between them are not completely straight. Or the edge is straight, but I don't like that. The spacing is not, let's say, everywhere the same. So while I'm making epoxy resin for the elevator tips, and because most of the time you make too much epoxy anyway, I also use it to fill up the hole between the elevators and the trim tab, and that way you get a real nice connection between the two. There are just some things that if you just, because the elevator is one of the first things you build. You start with the rudder and then you start with the elevator, right? Your techniques are not that good yet, and also I didn't read much ahead, so I wasn't really aware of what was I'm going into. And then it turns out that later, if you all put it together, oh crap, that needs to fit over there. If you would have known it, then you would probably maybe also look at the drawings, of course, but also just think and see, okay, which goes where, and how can I make it fit better. Alright, continuing building my pie in the sky.